Hi everyone, this is Melody. It has been a while, I know. I haven't been able to accomplish much since I came back to Hong Kong. So here it is. Here's my first vlog since I've been back to Hong Kong. This is where all my stuff is. I'm really excited to talk about it. It's a bunch of nail polishes that I've actually took a sample from everywhere. So just take a look. I'm sure some of these things you have at home already. It's just that you never had a chance to compare some of them. I'll talk about some of these nail polishes, actually in particular their brush sizes, and I'll probably go into some of the texture of their nail polish as well. These two things actually kind of go hand in hand, I noticed, because some nail polishes are actually pretty good, but it's the brush that actually ruins everything. So it really hinders the application process, and some people blame it on the nail polish quality itself. But it really isn't the case. And sometimes the reverse is also true. A nail polish probably isn't that good. However, their brush is awesome, so it goes on really nicely. And of course, there are some that have really nice nail polishes, and the brushes are also awesome. Here, just grabbed a couple nail polishes from each of the different brands, so I'll just test them as I go, I guess. I guess the most common one is OPI. Just take those out. Okay, I have these ones right here, and with this one, don't ask me what the name is because I don't know. It's from the Burlesque series. It's the orange one that's in there, because in the miniature sizes it doesn't tell you the name of the thing, of the color. However, for this red one right here, it's called The Show Must Go On, and the other one is called DS Radiance. See my little orange wood stick? I have like 2 pieces of blue tack attached onto it, and I'll just take the little fake nail tips right here, because the reason why I use these ones is because I bought these from a long time ago, and they're starting to get a little yellow, so I'm not going to use them anymore for extensions or anything. And also I noticed that they're really thick, so I just don't like it. So I'm going to use it for these testers right here. So here's the red one, and I guess a lot of us have tried the OPI ones before, and with the brushes are pretty good. The sizes are generally pretty big. That little bar right here is not too long, and I find that actually quite important because with some nail polishes, when that bar is really long, the nail polish will just run down that bar and it'll get all gooey and stuff, and it'll land on your brush and it'll just make the application really, really hard. So notice with the, see if that'll zoom today. Okay, see with the OPI ones, because the brush is already so wide, you'll have no problem covering a big nail, maybe a thumb or a toenail with 3 or 4 strokes. And when you press it a little bit, it'll fan out. It'll fan out quite nicely. So you can get that nice area around the cuticle right here by opening that fan and applying it that way. I know a lot of people actually have a hard time applying that cuticle area. Actually, the trick is to actually press the brush onto here a little bit and go up so it'll fan open, and just drag it down. It's kind of hard when I'm doing it this way. Because I know some people, they'll just land the brush like right on that cuticle line, and that's when it messes everything up. So don't do that. What I'm trying to say is with the OPI brushes, it's good generally. However, with people like me who have a small pinky or who don't have really big nails in general, with the little pinky, I have a hard time putting it on without, going over, because my pinky is so small. In that case, they're little ones for the little versions of the OPI, because their brushes are so much smaller. See that? I won't have the problem with the pinky. However, I will have problems with the big fingers. So for example, I'll take in the other one right here. So say this is my thumb, and I'm trying to cover it with this little brush right here. Maybe previously I can do it with 3 strokes with the big brush, the big bottle, but now I'll probably have to do it in like 4 or 5 because that brush doesn't fan out to be too big. See that right there? So I'll have that kind of problem. With the littler bottles, I also noticed that it's just really hard to paint with them in general because the brush doesn't pick up a lot of nail polish. So by the time I'm like halfway down a really long nail, or even just 3/4 down, like down a nail, before I even reach that free edge, I notice that I'm out of polish, and it's just really hard to apply. Okay, and next up, that's the silver one for the OPI. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this one is just because it's one of my favorite colors. It goes on really nicely. The coverage is awesome, even with just one coat. This is really good for beginners who have a hard time getting that perfect line. I'm just kind of painting it on just like that, and check this out. That's the coverage you get with one coat. And I know it's really hard to see exactly the sheen that I'm seeing right here, but it looks like a metal, like a gate. That's what it looks like. It's not matte, but it has some sort of textures to it. It's one of my favorite colors. It goes perfect on fingers and toes. Like in the summertime, this must go on my toes. So that's it for the OPI. So in my opinion, the brushes are pretty good in general, except for if you have smaller fingers, then it's probably not that easy to use. Next up is Orly. Orly is, for some reason, I actually hear more about this brand in North America than I would here in Asia. People are all about OPI, at least the general consumers, and I don't see a lot of it in salons. Maybe it's not advertised as much here. I'm not quite sure. So these three colors I'm talking about today. Let me just tell you what it is. Okay, this nude one right here is called Kiss the Bride. And this one is called Viridian Vinyl. There we go. So that's the name of it. And also this one is called Winter Wonderland. Alrighty. I think actually getting the camera to zoom was actually the most difficult part. Orly, I really like their handle because it's really grippy, but sometimes when I have acetone on my hands, it actually makes it gummy, so got to be really careful with that. But other than that, it's really good. See, notice how the brush is actually a lot more narrow, and when you press it up against the nail lightly, it fans out okay, but it's not the biggest fan. So you can imagine you'll probably need to connect a few strokes together to get that perfect cuticle line. And I noticed with the thinner brushes, it's actually harder to control, at least in my opinion, because when I have to do, say, 5 lines across to cover that nail, I have a lot of, how to say, overlap. And in that case, it depends on the texture of the nail polish. Sometimes you can really see the lines when they overlap. But with this one, because their coverage is actually pretty good, I think this nail polish have like a what do you call it? Like a self-leveling property almost. And what do I mean by that? See how there was supposed to be little blotches and streak lines when I was kind of stroking it on with different pressures, and it kind of evens it out a little bit. It's kind of cool. So it just kind of automatically fills itself in a little bit. So that's what I mean when I say it have like a self-leveling sort of property, and it's pretty good for one coat of a nude color. So I can't complain too much about it. And same with their green. I don't even know if it's a green. It's kind of like a turquoise. Again, awesome coverage, except for I noticed with the Orly nail polishes, because the polish is a little bit more runnier. So when I take the brush out of the bottle, I just have to be really careful that I scrape that bar that's behind there, along with my brush. And if I don't, and that's a bad habit of mine. And when I don't, I'll show you, say for example, if I took it out of here and I only scrape the brush, See how the nail polish will actually collect like right here? Ah, it's about to drip. It'll do that with the longer bars and with nail polishes that are actually thinner in texture. And combined with my bad habit of forgetting to scrape that bar, it'll drip. So yeah, so don't do what I'm doing right here. Remember to scrape that bar. I haven't heard of it actually until I went to I came here to Asia, to Hong Kong and Taiwan. It's actually a Korean brand. This brand is called Skin Food. And in case you haven't noticed, there's little numbers right here, and like little round label right there. I will actually tell you that at the end. Actually, no, I'll tell you that right now. Does that look familiar? These little popsicle sticks are the popsicle sticks that I took a picture of for my Nail Addicts blog, as well as my Facebook profile page. A lot of you guys really like this picture. I've actually gotten a lot of likes for this stuff, and I've actually had a lot of messages sent to me asking where I bought it. I bought the popsicle sticks from eBay. They're pretty cheap. I don't remember how much I paid for it. But making it was actually the hard part, because when I use gel colors for some of these, the top coat that I use, the sealer that I use, some of it actually in the beginning, I actually use the ones that needs you to clean off that tacky layer, and when I wipe the cleaner on here, it actually turned the whole thing blurry and cloudy, and it even wiped off some of the words that I wrote on there. So use the ones that don't require you to wipe off that tacky layer. And yeah, so what was I gonna say? The number on here, how I can actually find my nail polishes really easily, because here in Hong Kong our houses aren't the biggest, and when I stash all my stuff into the shelves and boxes, it's really hard to find that one nail color. So what happens is that on these popsicle sticks right here, I'll actually write the brand of the nail polish and the number that I gave it. So it's actually much easier for me to look for it in their own boxes. Okay, Skin Food, their nail polishes are awesome, and it's not, the brand is not too expensive. It's actually a brand that makes skincare and other stuff. Is actually quite affordable. It's probably the price range is probably about that of Body Shop. And so now I'm looking at their green, and I don't know what is the name of this, but the number is 01YV1, VY1. I'm sure there's a Korean name for it, but I can't read Korean. Okay, so check out the brush size. Not bad. The width is not as thin. Actually, it's actually, the width is about the same as that of Orly. Now, when I apply pressure onto it, it actually fans out pretty nice. It actually made a bigger fan than the Orly one would. And with these ones, the reason why I always talk about the fanning out is because, one, you have to get that nice cuticle area, that line right there. And second of all, with these thinner textured nail polishes, for example, the next one that I'll talk about, you can't press so hard on a brush, because you need to put a little bit thicker of a layer on to get that saturated color that you need. So if the brush doesn't fan out, if the brush doesn't fan out unless you press really hard, and it happens to be that nail polish is really thin in texture, then it's really hard to get that nice coat on. However, with this one, the Skin Food one, let's see. So this is one coat. Looking from here, you can see little streak lines. That's because the coverage is not the best for one coat. However, after two coats, or even three, actually the colors are pretty good. And I'm not going to do that right now because I still have to wait for this to dry. And I'll actually show you the colors individually on the popsicle sticks. I'll try to take a better picture of it and put some of these colors on individually. And there's another one that I wanted to talk about. The Skin Food one right here. See the little two footsies? They're actually designed for pedicures, and This one, I don't know how it's formulated, but even with a very sheer color, or a color that you think is sheer, it gives you awesome coverage. So this is one layer of their, I don't know what color this is, the number actually faded at the back. But it's kind of like a snowy white. You can sort of see it, maybe not. Okay, what I'm trying to say is that it actually covers your nail pretty well. It'll actually hide a lot of the blemishes, even though it's kind of translucent, but it's very even. You don't see much streak lines in these ones, and it's really good for people who's either not really good with applying nail polishes, or when you're doing it with your left hand to your right. I have that problem. I still can't master it really well. I mean, I can still do a really good job. It's just that it takes forever. Maybe like three times a time. And just a moment ago, I said I will talk about the Essie nail polish, and now I will actually do that right now. Okay, I took the big one here is called Can't Film Fest. Okay, and this one is the little guy. These ones actually come in a pack of 4. I really like that, so I can actually get a taste of everything. This one's called Topless and Barefoot. Okay, see that? The reason why I actually chose these two, it's because the big ones and the little ones, their brush sizes are actually the same. So it's not like the OPI ones where the little brushes have, or the little bottles actually have a littler brush. The brush size is essentially the same, except for the bar. That's the only difference between the big and the little bottles. So you can see. See, the brush size-wise is actually the same. I know on here this looks a little bit fatter, but it's not. It's because there's a drop of nail polish right here. So what I wanted to say about the Essie ones is that because the brush is so much more narrow, if you look at it right here, so it actually needs it'll require quite a few more strokes to cover one nail. And when I press on it with moderate pressure, see, it doesn't fan out that much. So I have to press a little bit harder for it to open up. And that will actually create one big problem is that with the Essie nail polish, because their texture, the nail polish is actually less thick. So in order to get a more saturated color, you have to feather it. You have to go much lighter on your stroke in order to get that color to be applied properly. Otherwise, it's going to get really streaky. Now, with their brushes, as I just mentioned, you actually have to press a little bit harder for it to fan out. So that will actually not work so well with the thinner nail polish that they have. So you can see there's still streaks and blotches. So their coverage is not nearly as good for one coat. But as I said, if you go light and you feather it and you do it for a few layers, 2 to 3 sometimes, then it's okay. But because their brush is so much more narrower, I find it actually harder to control. For example, with their nude color one right here, for example, if I was to cover the nail, I actually had to go back to my bottle several times before I can actually cover that whole nail. See, again, this is actually one layer. If you can actually see that little blotch right there, I tried my best. But for the first coat, it's actually not too bad for their nuder colors. I mean, it does kind of self-level. I guess I kind of made a little boo-boo when I was putting that part on. I actually pressed a little bit too hard, so you can actually see the little unevenness in the middle. But generally, it's pretty good. I really like their colors. So that's that. The Essie, for me personally, I like to get the little sets of 4 with the little bottles. So that way I actually get to try a few different colors at the same time without buying the full sizes itself.